When the Tesla Model S first came out, it came with a mountain of paint issues. When we started seeing them in our shop, they'd come with dust nibs, sanding marks, rotary swirl marks, and compounded polish in all the cracks and the crevices. The Model X was much the same, but it had fitment issues, and some of them even had thin paint issues. We saw a couple in our shop that you could see the primer layer where they didn't finish painting it. Now we have a Model Y in our shop, and we're gonna see if Tesla has stepped up their game. All right, before I show you the condition of this paint, and we will look at the paint, there's something I gotta clear up, and this is important, so please don't skip it. This car is brand new. It has 36 miles on it. The customer brought it straight from the service center to us. And most people would assume that a brand new car should look perfect. But if you do, you'd be wrong. And I'm gonna tell you why. Starting at the manufacture process, cars are painted at the manufacturer. What can happen is they can have small little dust particles when they're painting the car fall into the paint, and you get what we call a dust nib. It'll be a piece of dust in the paint, and you'll see some unevenness to it. It's common practices for these manufacturers to wet sand them at the manufacturer, so they'll wet sand them out, make them nice and even. But sometimes you'll have pigtails and some sanding marks left over. You might even have some dust nibs that they missed. Once the car leaves the manufacturer, they're gonna ship it out to the local service stations or dealerships. They're gonna put it on a truck. Usually it's an open trailer where it's exposed to all the weather elements, the rain, the snow, everything that you would see if you were driving the vehicle on the road. And hopefully the guys loading the car on the trucks are gonna be super careful, but I gotta imagine they're pretty tight squeezed when they're getting all these cars on there. Once the service center or the dealership receives your car, they're gonna do a service called a new car prep. They're gonna take all the factory stickers off the vehicle. There may be some adhesive that remains that will need to be removed. And the car's probably dirty. It might have bugs and dirt and everything else on it, so this is where it gets its first wash. And I don't really like to make blanket statements, but most dealerships have no business washing cars because all it takes is one improper wash to put in swirls, scratches, and everything else that we'll have to take out. With all that, it's pretty common when you get your car to see some of these paint imperfections. Most of them are minor and we can fix them. If the dealership takes it upon themselves to fix some of these issues, if you put a buffer in somebody's hands who doesn't really know what they're doing, you can end up damaging the car even further. You can have rotary swirl marks, you can have burnt paint, they can damage the trim, leave polish and compound in the cracks and crevices. It can be a big mess. My best advice is for you, if you're getting a new car, call the dealership, let them know, don't wash it, don't detail it, don't do anything, just take the delivery as is and bring it to a trusted detailer that can take care of your car and clean it up without putting more damage in it. Let's take a look at this paint. Getting started with the front end of the car, the first paint defect that I found is on the front bumper. You can see some discoloration here. This was most likely a dust nib from the factory that was sanded down and didn't get fully polished out. So you're gonna see these hazy sanding marks left behind. Speaking of dust nibs, we found several of them on this car. These will all have to be sanded down and polished before we put on the paint protection film. There was a couple giant dust nibs that I actually missed during the inspection that I found later in the wash bay. These dust nibs cannot be fixed by just sanding and polishing. This door will actually have to be repainted to look right. On the hood, there is some leftover adhesive, and if you look real close here, you can see some paint actually lifting up on the edge of the hood. This could be a big problem if it starts to peel back, so this is something we definitely have to address before putting on the film. Fender here, we have some very small, that looks like just a rub or some sort of adhesive left over. Those are easy fixes issues. We got some scratches in here, and we're gonna try to get these on camera. This is a very light color car, so it's hard to see all the scratches and swirls, but there are some definite scratches and swirls going on here. The paint overall is in fairly good condition. This gray metallic color is great at hiding scratches, but you can see that we still have some rub marks, some small swirl marks, in areas with small scratches. All of these can be fixed with some machine polishing, and I'm glad the dealer didn't try to do any of the correction themselves, so there's not any polishing residue to clean out of all these cracks. We got a little scuff or a rub on the driver's side door here, and you can kind of see the rough scuff, and then going down, something dragged down, because you can see some straight line, just very minor swirl marks on this right here. And then right below that, you can see probably somebody got out and just rubbed something right there. So again, it looks minor, but that should come out with polishing. You can see a little better on the taillights here what we're talking about with all these small surface scratches. You can also see the weird alignment issues here. The trim gaps are still not right. You can see the window trim here, one small gap on the front and a big gap on the back. The back tailgate also has some fitment issues. You can see on one side where it's almost flush and the other side is clearly not. The rear spoiler looks awesome, but again, you can see on one side where it sits nice and tight to the body and the other side it does not. There's a little bit of scuffing on the back bumper here, this trim. You can see that. On the back quarter panel here, you can really kind of see some of the haziness, some of those scratchings, some of just the minor swirl marks. This is what happens if you dry wipe your car or improper washing. A brush would cause this. Very minor things, but it affects how shiny the car is. You know, you bring this outside, and on most days when the sun's not out, you're not going to see this at all. You know, we bring this flashlight out because it kind of represents what you would see out in the daylight, the sunlight. And being in Chicago, we don't have very many sunny days, so you don't see this a whole lot. We see it a lot where people will pick up their car and they'll think it's brand new, and then they'll see it out in the sun for the first time in 3 weeks, and they'll be amazed what they can see out in the sun. This sticker we found in the door jamb, not exactly what it's there for, but I'm just gonna move it into the jamb a little more so it doesn't get blown off during the wash. We're also gonna take a look on the inside of the car. Right away, I can see some fingerprints on the headliner. I don't know if those are from the factory or if it happened afterwards, but we should be able to clean those up pretty easily. The visor doesn't look right here. You can see some missing adhesive. You can actually see a couple spots here that are already sagging. And take a look at this. This doesn't look right at all. Look at this big gap. It's flush over here and then the big gap on the side. I want to try to push this up, but I don't want to make it worse than it already is. Into the back seat right away, the trim looks to be a little off, and it looks like there's a cut here too. That's not good. Scuffs on the back seat already. Top of the headrest looks like it's been used. I tried folding the seats down, but only one side seemed to be working properly. And then if you look at the back of the seat here, this was already broken. We got some work ahead of us to get this car protected. We're gonna be doing paint protection film, ceramic coating. We want this car to look as perfect as possible, so we're gonna fix a lot of these paint issues, and most of them are very minor and very fixable. If you guys wanna see the full video of us protecting the Tesla Model Y, look in the description below. I'll leave some links. Make sure you like the video, share it with all your friends. Thanks for watching. See you next time. After the manufacturer is done with your vehicle, they're gonna ship it out to the service centers or dealerships, and it's gonna go on a truck, and some of these are gonna be exposed trucks to the weather. We're gonna do it over and over till we get it. When the first Tesla Model S is, it was so good, I was almost there.